But anyway, so this is Gothix on voter says voter ID laws aren't racist. It's common sense. A big dum dum. Give you bits, you give us trash. You're damn right. JCon Games, thanks for following. Chaz Films, thanks for following. So this is that video. We're gonna do that. That's it. Just another Candace Owens, but with an edgy aesthetic. Seems about right. Seems about right. I guess we'll see. It's kind of a bummer though, man. It's a bummer, but all right, we'll keep going.
Victimhood attracts predators. This is a concept that I've spoken about. Victimhood attracts predators. This is a concept that I've spoken about time and time again on this channel, but a lot of my critics, when they hear this, they get upset because they confuse this statement with me not being compassionate or me not acknowledging people's individual struggles. No, I get that people struggle, but it can't stop there. You have to push yourself to overcome and persevere, because if you don't, someone will use your weakness as an opportunity to sell you a solution that you may already have a solution for.
Who hurt you? Who hurt you? And why did that hurt? Let's explore that a little bit. I think maybe we should go to therapy. Because if you're saying all of these sentences back to back, I think there's a deep-seated problem we're not really digging into in the way that we ought to. I think. Oh, by the way, I got spikes too. By the way, where's my spikes? Ugh. All right, I got spikes too. I don't want Gothix to think I'm some sort of fucking like loser. Okay, so I will keep my spike stick just right here. I really hope I don't hurt myself with this. We'll see what happens. We'll carry forth.
And what problem is that exactly? Victimhood.
Victimhood.
Victimhood is the problem. And I called this once BLM reemerged last summer. This movement did nothing but create racial tensions with the purpose of keeping the population fixated on racism.
You think the intention of Black Lives Matter was to keep the public's attention on racism? For what reason? What do you think it was for? Wow. I guess we'll have to explore this.
And it worked. Seriously, you can't deny it. Everywhere you turn, someone's talking about systemic racism, critical race theory, implicit bias, white supremacy. It's honestly exhausting. So regardless if you supported the movement or you're actively working to defeat racism, we need to have an honest conversation about society's obsession with skin color and why it's in our best interest to stop doing it.
So, do you think it's society's obsession with skin color? Because I certainly don't. I certainly don't think that it's a skin color thing. The problem in America that is revolves around the topic of racism. Sure, that is like a very, very basic understanding of racism, and it's weird that I gotta be the one to have this discussion, but I guess we're gonna do it. Gothix, that's fucking stupid. That's just really, really stupid and a terrible explanation of the actual topic at hand. People aren't, like, fixated on skin color. What they are fixated on, and what should be fixated on, is the systemic issues that people of non-white skin colors face. Not a specific skin color, although people that that identify as black and that look black, I guess, air quotes, although they don't have to be part of the black community. They could be like, you know, I mean, you have people of all sorts of skin colors from all sorts of heritages and stuff that move on. But nonetheless, in America, we do have a problem not only with profiling, but the idea of someone's culture being informed by their outward appearance, whether that is skin color or otherwise, is a huge problem. As we all know, racism doesn't exist or is a problem until you bring it up. That's true. it's such a much deeper conversation than just like there's a bunch of white people obsessed with skin color. It's like, no, dude, I just want like the systemic problems of the past to be resolved in a way that's equitable for people in the country so that we can move forward and not have to deal with this shit. It's like Beetlejuice. If you say racism 3 times, it becomes real. That's true.
So for today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a false narrative that's being pushed by leeching off of the racial tensions that were manifested last summer.
Spawn Blaze, thanks for following. But
before we get started,
let's do our sponsor for the episode. Sure, let's skip.
I want you to listen to that. Jim Crow. So there's no... And go back to the show. Jim Crow 2.0. I want you to listen to that. Jim Crow 2.0. What does that sound like? Does it sound like the KKK is outside my door? Does it sound...
What? Did Jim Crow 1.0 have KKK outside the door? What? Razor Beast, thanks so much for the 19 months. How about we treat each other like human beings instead of animals? That could be good.
Sound like my family is about to get drenched by a fire hose? Does it mean I have to eat in a designated section for people that look like me or sit in the back of the bus? Does Jim Crow 2.0 mean that I don't have a right to vote?
A little bit, yeah. that is kind of the argument, yeah. It's that they're doing things constitutionally, but they're trying to loophole it to cause as few black people voting as possible. Not just black people, but just people that don't agree with them. Is that her minimum bar? I don't know, Slow Dog. I don't know.
To me, Jim Crow 2.0 sounds less of racism and more of a manipulation tactic. Now, I pride myself in trying to be as objective as possible.
You know who says I try to be objective as possible at all times? Liars. Liars say that. Because you can't be objective. You can't be. I can't be. You can't be. None of us can be objective. We cannot do this. We can only sift information through our preconceived biases. The way to obtain kinds of objectivity are, of course, to have these conversations at large and sort of like pick the brains of everybody involved in the conversation, and then collectively we come together to a solution. Now, one person might have better ideas than another person, but you know, it's not we can't be objective. I can't be I'm super objective. Shut the fuck up. Whenever you say that fucking stuff, it just reminds me of old skeptic YouTube, dude. You're a fucking loser.
However, this is something that I can't consciously ignore, and it needs to be addressed. Democratic politicians, I'm talking to you.
Oh, wow. You know what I don't like about this person? Their personality. I'm talking... You know what I'm talking to you. You're damn right. I'm going to take you to task, Democrats. Yeah, I'm smug about it. Get ready. How about you take yourself a little more seriously like I do, okay? There's no one on the platform more serious about myself than I am. Maybe you should get ready for some of the good old tactical Jakey poo. You know what we should do? Pop this out. Pour a little salt on the microphone. Because I'm getting mad. I'm getting mad about it. Real mad.
Well, some of you. I don't like to generalize, but you know who you are. The 2020 presidential election was a pretty interesting one. Now, per YouTube's terms of service, I'm very limited to what I could discuss about this particular topic.
You're very limited on discussing the falsity that exists within your belief system about the election and the veracity of it. Wow, sounds like a person with good fucking opinions. You know what this really is? You know what this person boils down to? We've only been talking with Gothix here for 3 minutes and 22 seconds. And you know what I'm gathering? An insecure person that desperately wants to be one of the good ones. Every time this is the case, dude. Every fucking time this is the case. You get a little bit of a following on a thing, and you find yourself validated. That validation feels good, irrespective of the source of that validation. There are a lot of people that don't get enough validation that if you do get validation in a place, you will end up seeking out repeat sort of expressions of that validation in unhealthy ways. This is why I words. This is a big reason that I words fall down a hole, or QAnon or something like that. They get a little bit of validation from a group that sort of identifies with them roughly, and then you just slowly continue to adopt more and more of the shit because the validation feels good. I mean, it's just one of those things, man. I don't know what Mission Hill is, but I probably can't watch it if it's a TV show. So which one's the final boss? Her, Candace Owens has way more going on here.
But I will say that the event could be summarized as half the population believing the results were legitimate, and the other half believing the results were, and regardless...
I don't think it's half the population. I think it's less than that. You know how I know? Because y'all lost.
Regardless of where you land on this particular topic, one thing rings true, and that was that mail-in voting was at an all-time high.
Weird. During COVID? Strange.
Now, after that entire situation, we had all of these Democratic leaders opposing voter ID laws like SB 202 or SB 7, citing that they would be the equivalent to Jim Crow 2.0, and it would disproportionately keep Black, Latino, and Native American voters from casting their ballots. Oh, also, it was ableist as well.
It might be ableist. Depends on what you're talking about. I mean, ableism is a thing. It's fine. It's fine that we can accept that things are ableist. That's okay. It just depends on what you're doing. Are you banning fucking, like, wheelchairs from being in line? Because that's pretty ableist. You know what I mean? So it depends on what's going on. To be a black conservative is to destroy your soul. Even Candace Owens' frequent panic attacks and freakouts. I can't imagine that any person that is in these spheres has, like, a really good life. You know what I mean? I mean, they're constantly mad and upset, and they're buying into conspiracy theories. And the stress of that must be ridiculous to not live in reality all the time. There's a little bit of me that feels a little bit bad. Not a lot, though.
It's interesting because I don't recall this much objection over voter IDs prior to Obama going into office.
You don't? Prior to Obama going into office, we didn't talk about voter ID laws? What? Most common ID. I mean, you do realize that we had, like, many voting rights activist movements within America, whether it was women's suffrage or whether it was black people being allowed to vote, or the ability for people that have work visas to vote, Puerto Rico to vote, felons to vote. There's all sorts of. I mean, just because you don't recall it doesn't mean it's not a thing, dummy. Read a book, dude. Like, read a single book. I don't care what book it is. Read Watchmen, the graphic novel. Don't care. Read Twilight, all of it. Just figure it out. Get more literate, because you are not good enough. Most common IDs held by disabled individuals usually don't qualify as voter ID. Oh, that makes sense. Don't know why you would do that, but I guess it makes sense. There weren't as many objections before Obama was elected because the Voting Rights Act hadn't been gutted yet, and the red states didn't all scramble to pass that shit. I mean... Lots of voting right issues.
In fact, when I was still mesmerized by identity politics, I didn't find much difficulty obtaining an ID and finding my way to the polling place.
When I was mesmerized by identity politics, I needed to go get an what? Okay, but so to get an ID in the country, of course, you have to have, like, a stable address. You have to have an old expired ID or a newly or about to be expired ID. By the way, I just got my ID in the mail. Just renewed mine. You need a birth certificate, a social security card or number. If you don't have some of that information, you need to get it all. If you don't have access to these things, and especially if you don't have, like, the $15-25 to do these things, like, if you're poor, if you don't have transportation to get around to do these things, if you don't have someone with transportation to do these things, if you don't have access to the internet to be able to get a hold of these things, like, a lot of it is really complicated. I am still desperately trying to get a copy of my fucking title for my car, but because Idaho, a Republican state, is in charge of that, and I moved, I am having so much more paperwork than I ever would have if I just needed to fucking like get it here where I live right now. I can do it in an afternoon right here, but now I gotta wait for snail mail and shit, and COVID shut everything down, so I had to wait. Just ridiculous, because Idaho doesn't fucking take COVID seriously, so of course they don't have everyone staffed. Ridiculous.
In fact, it was very easy, actually. The same can go.
It was very easy, actually. Like, it might be easy for you, dude. It was easy for me to get an ID. I went online. I have the means to pay for my ID. I don't know how much it was. I have no idea. I don't know. Renew Michigan ID. I don't even know. And that's only renewing. I know Sarah has a big hard time with this because you have to get all of the information from your home state where you were born and move all the stuff over to the new place. It's like if you don't have that access to stuff, like it's just hard, dude.
For the previous year, I had no problems casting my vote, and I can't think of anyone else that did.
So if you, it depends on what state you live in as well. I don't know where Gothix lives, but there's some states where you don't have any problems at all voting. In Michigan, for instance, I can pretty much vote pretty easily. I just get in line and I do it, and they don't require ID at the place. I do have my ID. If you have your ID, you fill out a thing and you go vote really quickly. It takes about 10 minutes. If you don't have an ID, it takes about 15 minutes. But if you live somewhere that requires voter ID, then it can be much harder. It can be a slower process. You can also not vote in some primaries depending on where you're at. Louisiana is a great example of this. You can't vote in primaries unless you are registered as part of the parties that are involved in the vote. So like it just depends on the state if it's easy or hard. Your personal experience is not everyone's personal experience, and that should be so I thought you tried to stay objective. You're literally doing the opposite of staying objective when you use an anecdote from your personal experience to describe the issues with voter ID. That's not objectivity. That isn't that. I don't know who, do you have anybody that's with you or near you that can tell you what objectivity actually means? Like, what? This is the dumbest shit ever. Do you have a brain? Seems very privileged and also has a very, I don't know anyone who got COVID energy. I mean, she probably definitely knows people with COVID.
So why are politicians claiming that voter ID laws are racist?
Well, I can tell you.
I think it's racist in itself to assume that black people can figure out how to obtain an ID and cast their vote. But you know what?
We're not talking about black people being able to figure it out with their fucking brains, dude. It's not only about black people. It just happens to target black people from a systemic perspective due to the fact that there's not much generational wealth within black communities, because not until the Civil Rights Act in the late 60s did you have the ability to maintain familial wealth and perpetuate it. And we can see today in 2021, familial wealth and generational wealth within black families and black communities are getting better and better every fucking time. Like, every year it gets a little bit better for black communities. A little bit. But it's not good enough because the country and the system in general fucked the black community. Not to mention the Mexican community, the Asian community. I mean, and I mean Asian very broadly. I mean, whether it's Japanese, Korean, Thai, fucking Vietnamese people, like Chinese people. Like, these people have a fucking hard time coming over here, and you're like, wow, they're offered better opportunities. Sure, but like, some people don't even get fucking right to vote in the country they live in, dude. Like, this is such a fucking privileged take. I have an easy time voting and getting my ID. I live out in the middle of the woods where it is cheap. I'm white. My family was pretty much stable for years. We had familial wealth. Like, it's not hard for me to get things like this. However, having dated people in the past, I know. Kind of a lady killer. I've had a girlfriend in the past, for instance, that was a dual citizen. She was born in, I believe she was born in the United States, or she was born in Kuwait. I can't remember. But her mom, either way, was an American citizen. She might have been born in Kuwait. And so she had dual American citizenship and Kuwaiti citizenship. But the system was so broken that she had to be naturalized into the United States rather than just having the things she needed, because the reason she left Kuwait was the Gulf War when she was a baby. And so, shocker, some of the records got destroyed, right? So, like, it took her until she was, like, fucking 20 years old to get naturalized. I was there in the courtroom with her when we got naturalized. We went through a ton of bullshit. It took forever. And we had the means, and she had familial wealth. She just wasn't white, and she wasn't straight from the United States. But her mom was a U.S. citizen. It should have been over in 2 seconds. But even then, and we know that people born to U.S. parents have citizenship, right? It just took a long time. Wager Road says, 50 biddies, Oklahoma recently switched the Real ID compliance system. There's a year-long backlog of people getting just because of inefficiency in our system. Oh, yeah. Weird, but cool flex, man.
For the sake of this argument, let's say that black and brown people can't obtain an ID.
No one's saying that black and brown people cannot obtain an ID. We are saying that there are obstacles in the way, especially in the rural South, like where all of these laws are taking place. It is very hard for people to find the means to get these things done, whether it is transportation to the facilities, whether it is the ability to afford the different things. Not that they can't conceive of it in their brains. It isn't about intelligence. It isn't about aptitude on being able to get it done. It's quite literally about the physical means by which we have to go through these things. Many people, including myself, say, if you want to implement voter ID, cool. Issue free voter IDs. That's it. Just issue them to people. Have them sign out a thing, mail it out, and have them get it for free. Have them be able to do it over the internet and very quickly without transportation. Have it not cost anything. And just verify it independently. If that's what you want to do, then stop putting the financial hurdles in place of it. You know it's hard, especially when it comes to voting, because you have to take a fucking weekday off to do it. How many poor people do you know can't afford to take an entire shift off of work to go vote in an election where their needs are likely not going to be met, especially if they're in the South, dude? This is... How do you not understand these things? Like, literally just for 1 second, assume that you're in these positions.
Well, that would suggest that these same folks have never opened up a bank account, driven a car, purchased
This is not true. None of this is what people assume. None of it.
alcohol or cigarettes, received prescription medication, boarded a plane, applied for Medicaid, unemployment, Social Security, and welfare, to name a few.
Some people don't have these things. What do you mean? Like, you're implying that this is like super normal, like, life for every single person that lives, never went to a nightclub or a casino, no renting or buying a house. What the fuck? Should we spell tobacco? Tobacco. Tabaco. Tabaco. Look. Some people don't have these things. That's true.
To name a few. This also means that we're talking about an extremely small minority of citizens.
No, we're not. No, we're not, because you are framing it incorrectly. Again, in your effort to be objective, you refuse to do so. It's almost as if you're a liar. Surprise, you're a fucking liar, dude. This isn't how people go about this. If you need a voter ID specifically, maybe you don't have a driver's license. Maybe you didn't have the money to renew your driver's license. Maybe you don't have the ability to get your birth certificate. Maybe you don't know where your birth certificate is. Maybe you don't know the information you have to get for this stuff. Like, there's so many... Most of it is just, I'm poor and need to work and don't have time to go do all this shit. That's most of it. Absolutely wild.
So let's take it a step further and say yes, there are some people that just don't know how to get an ID or they don't have the resources to obtain one. Okay, that's a problem. Maybe they don't have a computer in order to find the information they need. Luckily for them, there are computers they can use at public libraries for free.
I can't believe she just said maybe these people don't have the means to go get the things, and then says, but they do have the means to go to a library? How are they getting to the library? What? Do they have money to print out the stuff at the library? Do they have a working operational library in their town? Do they know where the library is? Is it open during the times they're not working? Do they care enough to go through all this bullshit to vote in the South when their voices have been systemically unheard for hundreds of years? The psychology of this is important. Like, have you talked to a black person from Mississippi before? They're not exactly gassed up about the political situation in the country. You know what I mean? Some of them are, sure. There's people getting more and more enfranchised every day through political activism and through knowledge and just being able to share it and the information that we can get online. And yet, because of that, Republican lawmakers decide to make it even more difficult. Huh. Now, ask yourself this. Why do you care so much about voter ID? We've looked at this on stream before. I believe of the last 11 cases of voter fraud, all of them were Trump voters or Republicans. And that dates back to several years, like several elections. There's like not many people that actually do voter fraud at all. And like these are people that like filled out 2 ballots. These are people that have like, you know, their dad died and they voted on his behalf. You know what I mean? Like really dumb shit. There's not cases where people have like really changed elections with voter fraud. So if voter fraud is not a problem, okay, apply the same amount of restriction on voter fraud that you would in regards to something more serious that I think even Republicans agree is more serious than COVID, but you're very lax on COVID. That's interesting. It's interesting to me that someone like Gothix or a Republican in general or a conservative in general would preach when it comes to COVID and all of the things that go into that. They would preach freedom. They would preach maximal freedom at all times, which is something I can get behind. If you want to not wear a mask, I kind of don't care. What I do care about is you being allowed to maybe go to school or college or something or come into my business. You can't do that. You have the freedom to choose. If you choose not to wear a mask or not to get specifically get vaccinated, if you choose not to get vaccinated, go ahead and choose that. I actually don't care that much. I'm fine with you making that choice. But everybody else gets to choose not to fucking involve themselves with you as well. That's our freedom of choice. You can be self-cordoned off into your pariahship the way you'd like to be, I guess, because you don't trust science, which is fine. Your Facebook memes are probably, you know what? People that work from home and homeschool their kids probably know a lot more about COVID than, you know, scientists and doctors anyway, so that's fine. So why don't you take this same approach? Do you have more or less freedom in the following 2 examples? Example number 1, more or less freedom than example number 2. In example number 1, you have, I don't know, an entire month to vote for who you'd like for president. And in that election, during that period of time, you didn't need a voter ID. You just needed to confirm your name and address. and we can decide whatever else, but pretty much it's just name and address, because they got to make sure that you're part of the district. You're on a list in the residency for my city, at least, and I was in rural Michigan as well. I was on like, oh, okay, this person is definitely part of our census. We understand that this person has records in Michigan. We can look them up on the internet in minutes. So this person definitely lives here and is part of this voting district. Okay, you can vote, and then they mark you off, and then you go vote. But what if I also could vote for not just Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton or Jeb Bush? What if I could vote for all of them, just at different values? Runoff voting. So now my voice not only counts for the one person I like, but it also ranks them in how much I like or dislike them, right? So if I like, oh, Trump is good, but I really like Gary Johnson as my second option, this brings viability to your third parties, right? The idea that your vote could be more nuanced than yes or no on one person. Your vote could be a nuanced approach to what about I like this person's politics, I like this person's politics secondarily, I like this person's politics sort of third, and nobody else really speaks to me. Why can't we do that? And of course, anytime during that month, we could tabulate votes, which would be easy because we wouldn't have to wait forever and ever to get, all the votes in. Of course, the last weekend or so would probably be the biggest voting turnout base, but we'd have a month of this. It'd be a little bit more stressful for the voting stuff, but I think that would be a good thing. We'd get more people to vote. We could even do a week. I don't care. We could even just more than a day, I think, is really ideal. We should also let people take time off from work for that, and it should be a national holiday that is subsidized by the workplace. And the workplace can say, okay, these people were sent out to vote, and I'm absolutely 100% fine with, if you have just one national voting day like we do now, is if a business says, okay, this person, and this person went to vote, I'm fine if you get... If because you have to pay them for going to vote, if the government subsidizes just that hourly wage during the time they're going, I'm fine with that. Anything to get more people to vote, because what has more freedom? Making someone be able to vote at what time is most comfortable for them in a way that doesn't impede their earnings under capitalism and doesn't include encroachment on their personal time? Or one that does. Option number 2, the system we currently have, where you have to have an ID, you have to have the means to travel. Obviously, and you have to have means to travel on that specific day. Obviously, I'd like more public situations, like maybe public transportation, maybe bus routes that bus people throughout the community. Like, hey, we got bus stop here, and here around the community. We will take you for free to the polling station and back. We'll do it every hour. Or every half hour even. We'll just rotate in and out. I'm fine with that too. There's lots of options to do this, but only one of them involves freedom. The other one involves incredible amounts of restriction, and it happens to be the one that you support, Gothix, and other Republicans and conservatives. You support more restriction on voters than anywhere else, which is very odd and very strange, and I wonder what causes that. Eccleston, why don't we just send the IDs through the mail like they do in Europe? And actually, I believe Oregon does IDs in the mail like that, and it works really well. They also do it in Europe for sure. Maps and Mix, thanks for the 500 biddies. Feel bad for not being able to stay long tonight, but I want to spend time with my BF and take my apology. But hey, no problem. Don't feel bad. Hey, Andrew, thank you. You're pretty cool too. Glad you're having a good night. Are you headed out? I'm busy right now, but I see you're in the driveway. So have a wonderful night, dude, and enjoy your drive home, man. Andrew made the table and did a very, very good job. And so Cobby's in chat for Andrew Dickerson right now in chat. We will be tossing some new we'll be tossing some pictures out into the internets. It's gonna be a good time. Washington does mail ID too. Yeah, I mean, this is so easy. So easy. Always weird how Republicans say they want freedom, and yet they restrict it with their smug fucking faces.
Don't know how to use a computer? Thankfully, they also have people called library aides that are there to help. But you know what? Maybe they can't figure out how to get to the library. Maybe they just don't have a way to get there. They don't have a car, or maybe it's too far. Okay, fine. By that logic, that would mean that this individual does nothing. They don't move at all.
That's not true. What are you talking about? So not having the means to transportation doesn't mean that you don't do anything. It means most of these people have to wait for rides. Does anybody in chat not have their own vehicle and regularly have to catch like the bus or get a ride from a friend or something like that? Is anybody, by show of hands in chat, however you want to do it, there you go. You just say me, you can throw a hand, whatever. That you have to wait on some form of transportation that you can't count on immediately by yourself. Lots of people, all the time, a bunch of people in chat right now. And some of you have money and stuff. You just don't have enough money to get to that point. You might not have the means. Maybe you're on campus and you have nowhere to keep your car. You know what I mean? Maybe you're in a situation where your car is a little broken. Maybe you're in a situation where you're in a big city like, I don't know, New York or LA, and having a car doesn't really make a ton of sense based on where you're at due to population density, and you have to catch public transportation. So, like, maybe you're just scared to drive. That's fine, too. Yeah, a lot of people are scared to drive. And I get it. And there's some things that you can't do. Not to mention any other disabilities or just fucking, like, anything. Maybe you drive a BMW. I don't drive a BMW. I have a Ford. I have an old Ford Focus. Just about paid it off, too.
And they stay in that exact same place day in and day out. Do they find ways to get groceries? Go to the doctors? Yes. Go to church?
Yeah, I still don't know why she's so smug about this. It's specifically for one day of the year during which they have to work almost certainly in the middle of the week. Why are you smug about this? Like, extend it to a week. Make sure that everybody has access to voting. What, are you scared? What is the bad part about having more people vote? Toss me that. Answer that question.
To see their family go on vacation? Then what's preventing them from getting to the library? We've got city buses, subways.
We don't always... I don't have a fucking subway, a train, Uber and Lyft. Okay, so you can't afford a fucking ID, but you can afford Uber and Lyft just regularly? City scooters? This person lives in a city. Where does Gothix live? Does anybody know this? City scooters. What, do you live in fucking Toronto? What are you talking about, dude? Subway, last in Oklahoma. There's like 3 subways in the world. I'm kidding. There's like New York, Chicago has a rail system. Fucking San Francisco and LA have some systems. I mean, there's not really a lot of public transportations all over the place. Let me just quick Uber to my library to print out shit, then go home to the DMV to get my ID. Yeah, then go to the DMV. Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. Seen city scooters in Oregon? I mean, yeah, maybe. I've seen some stuff in like a nice city where stuff is expensive. They'll have like bikes and scooters that you can rent. Tons of people don't ever get to go on vacation. What a privileged ass bitch. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. I didn't go on a vacation until like several years ago. Like 3 years ago, I think it was my first like real like big vacation. I'd taken some weekends off, you know what I mean? Like and gone places. She's in Rhode Island? Weird. The East Coast, where liberals reign supreme and you have a lot of good stuff. She's so privileged and insane. This is fucking crazy.
Rideshare, taxi, biking, asking friends or relatives, or my personal favorites, walking. And if they can use any of these methods...
But you live in a You don't live in a rural area. Walking? Do you know how fucking far it would be for me to walk to a voting place? Hold on. Let me see. Let me... I'm trying to think of my mom's fucking, let me see. Is this... Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay. I want to find the map. My nearest polling station was to there. Directions. I'm just for my mom's house when I was a kid, where I voted before. Okay. That is a 6.2 mile round trip to walk. If I was at my dad's house, like if they never got divorced, the closest polling place, this is just... If I was at my dad's house, it would be a round trip 8.8 mile walk round trip to go vote in the middle of the week, which means it would take me 3 hours of walking time to get to my nearest polling place, which was a United Methodist Church. I voted there twice. Once for a general election, once for a midterm. If I walked from my rural house... Is your dad's house a cemetery? True. Well, no, he lived in Tennessee. But, I mean, just like from where I grew up when I voted at this place, a roughly 10-mile round-trip walk through rural countries in November in Michigan. In November, dude. In Michigan.
First, I was gonna.
Oh, thank you, Chrissy, for the video saying the in November part. Yeah, absolutely. It's a minimum 45 minutes bus ride to my nearest polling place on a good day. She just privileged as fuck doesn't see. Like, this is what I'm talking about, dude. Just like, do you know where your local polling place is? In town where I live, I could walk to my polling place. It'd probably be about a half-hour walk. Just right over there. About a half hour. It's several blocks away, and there's not like a straight route to it. I have to kind of like go main roads and then back. It's not like one straight road there. You'd be walking through the snow in November, absolutely, or at least fucking just real cold. 2 blocks. See, some of you are in a good place. I'm in a better place now than I was as far as like closest polling place. After that, and that was where I had to go vote, right? Because when you vote, you can't just choose any polling place. It depends on where your district is. So that was my district. A fucking 10-mile hike through November snows in Michigan. Yeah, sorry. Sorry if I didn't have a fucking car at the time. I'd be fucked, dude. And churches aren't required to be ADA accessible, so you may not have a wheelchair ramp. I think this one does, but yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, I think it did only have a front. They may have added one at some time. As a non-American, I don't know what a block is. So in a lot of American cities, Sam, a lot of American cities are built on grid, or American just spaces are built on grids the further west you get, because of how city planning was at the time. So out east and in Europe, you built around communities, sort of like, which is why you have like a lot of circular stuff. You look at London, for instance, it was intended pre-car, right? But as you move west in the United States, the founding of these places come like post-cars, or tractors or something like that. And so they start to be more box-like and grid-like, for the ease of travel and to prioritize traffic movements. So we'll have what ends up being blocks. You may have heard the term country mile in America as well. Basically, blocks are 1 mile by 1 mile by 1 mile. So, yeah, so those are just called blocks. So a city block would be basically like the next square, road to road. Like one road, like First Avenue to Second Avenue is 1 block. So, yeah. London roads are a nightmare spaghetti plate. Yeah. Which is why a lot of the old European towns are like, maybe the traffic is a little shitty because of how they were built, because they were built pre-car. Which is why a lot of places like have super thin alleyways that like 1 car can drive through at times. That's why. Maybe run instead of walk. Yeah, simply run 10 miles. Simply just run a marathon to go vote. No big deal. Fucking Gothix. What a dum-dum.
For traveling to other places, why can't it be used for the library as well? You know what? Maybe there aren't any libraries in town. Honestly, that's a damn shame. They're really great. But luckily...
They're really great. It's weird how Republicans want to defund libraries.
There are other resources available, like computer rental workstations at UPS.
Computer rental. UPS store, FedEx store, Staples. Jesus Christ. All of this, okay, so if I had to go to the nearest library, I know where the nearest library is, close to my mom's house. I'm gonna do this again. I'm gonna do this one more time. We're gonna do directions. Choose a starting point. And then this is gonna be ding, 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 ding. Let me see. Oh, actually, I think it's this. Hold on, wait. I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting the name of the library. It's a township library. Yep. Yep. I believe. No, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Oh, man. It's actually not that far. We'll say it's right here. Roughly. Hold on. I know you can't see this, which is important because I don't want you to know my mom's address. Okay. All right. I found out the distance. To get to my library, if I didn't have a car, from my mom's house, which is closer than where my dad's house was, to the local library in the town I grew up, it would be 2 hours and 24 minutes one way. A 5-hour walk round trip to go to the library. Because I lived rurally. A 5-hour round trip. Very cool. Very cool. You know, simply walk to the library, fool.
FedEx or Staples, you can even check for programs.
The UPS store, FedEx, Staples, Goodwill, Salvation Army, all at least an hour drive from my mom's house. Or 45 minutes. Drive in a car from my mom's house. All of those. We do not have a closer one from my mom's house.
Programs at your local Salvation Army or Goodwill that can help you with this type of stuff. But perhaps this person does know how to get an ID, but they just don't have the money to get one. Okay, fair enough. Well, on average, government-issued IDs are around $30, but it depends on where you are. And thankfully, there are some states that have free options. Realistically, though, $30 isn't a lot of money. So
wow. So I don't have $30, but instead she says, but $30 isn't that much money.
So perhaps there's something this person can cut back on in order to save up to obtain that ID.
Or maybe, by the way, mine's about $60 as well. Maybe it should be free. How about just making it free? What does a homeless person cut back on? All the rent.
When I was in high school, I used to pocket my lunch money and go hungry in order to save up for new clothing at Hot Topic.
Is this person a fucking joke? Is this a joke right now? I used to go hungry and save up for clothing from Hot Topic. Are you a fucking meme? Just simply go hungry, she says.
Because I considered my sense of style a priority. But if I needed to use that money in order to purchase an ID, I would have done that instead. But maybe this person doesn't have any money. Like
But they don't. But again, you're asking someone to suffer to go vote while losing wages to do so, to vote for people, because you would like them to vote for Republicans, to vote for people that don't have their best interest in mind. What are you talking about? What? This is the dumbest video I've seen in a long, long time. How is Gothix a person that has a following? Genuinely, I don't understand this. There's nothing likable going on here.
Are completely broke and they simply cannot afford a $30 ID and don't have any expenses they can temporarily forego. Okay, that's unfortunate and I really feel for this person. But again, we're talking about an extremely small minority. So I would suggest...
I don't think an extremely... Wait, what? How many people live paycheck to paycheck? According to research, 54% of consumers in the United States, about 125 million U.S. adults, are living paycheck to paycheck, with 21% of this population struggling to pay their bills, meaning they have little or no money left over after spending their income. So 21% of American adults is not an extremely small minority. 21% of American adults is millions of people. In fact, that's what, 30 million people or so? 30 million. Just fucking, I guess, fuck off. And that's adults. That is just adults. Right? Which means that, of course, the generation coming up after that adds to that if they don't have money and certainly no familial wealth. I mean, if you don't believe me, I can just show it right there. According to research, and this is from this year. This is this year, dude. According to research, 54% of consumers in the U.S., 125 million U.S. adults, are living paycheck to paycheck, with 20% of its population struggling to pay their bills, meaning they have little or no money left over after spending their income. What? Surprise! It's real. Poverty exists. Fucking dumb, dude. She's so dumb, dude.
To these folks in particular to inform themselves on important voting dates in their city so they're prepared.
How? They don't have the means to fucking do anything, so they have to inform themselves? What are you talking about? You know what would work better? Free. Fucking just make voter IDs free. How many people who live paycheck to paycheck drink or smoke? I don't know. What? Does it matter? What if it's 0%? What if people living paycheck to paycheck have 0% smoking or drinking? What if it's 50%? What if it's 50? What if it's 100%? Does that change any of it? Why do people smoke and drink? Are they not victims of capitalism and marketing and addiction nonetheless? Simply don't be addicted, fool. True. Good thinking, man. Good thinking. The best way to just, like, not live paycheck to paycheck is not to be addicted to things anymore. Or, in fact, the number one reason people drink, by the way, is, of course, self-medication, because they live so dismally that, you know, they rely on a substance to improve their mood just a little bit. You know what I mean? Sacrifices shouldn't be required to utilize your right to vote. Ding, 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 ding. Tasha's correct. If you believe in a free United States, if you believe in freedom, you should not have a paywall to your, I'll say it, God-given right to vote. There you go, Republicans. You like that shit? Why are you putting a paywall on voting? Do you like freedom? Or do you just like to say the word a lot? I'm for fucking freedom, dude. If you want to put a paywall on voting, I can't believe that you're a very good voter. I can't believe that you're a very good Republican either. I mean, how is that free? I don't know either. It certainly isn't free. Loser, dude.
For example, Most people know that the presidential election is every 4 years. So in that situation, this individual has 4 years to save up for $30 in order to obtain an ID to vote. And if they're incapable of saving up $30 in 4 years, then I question why this person is voting in the first place.
Okay, so over the course of those 4 years, which of course is not the only time anybody votes, you can vote pretty much every year on stuff if you pay attention to it. But also, there's midterms. So what if, I don't know, you have literally anything go wrong over the course of those 2 or 3 years, or 4 years? What if something just goes wrong and you need that money? I mean, what? Do you think homeless people should be allowed to vote? Of course, yeah. Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
I'm serious. If someone can't figure out how to operate a computer, let alone figure out how to obtain an ID,
Bad at saving equals shouldn't vote. True!
then how can we be sure that this individual can figure out how to properly research in order to vote for the best candidate?
Bro, you think the election was stolen. You also cannot properly research. You're a dumbass. I still think you should have the right to vote, even though you're a fucking dumbass. Literacy testing. Christ. Oh, look. Weird. The more you dig into the Republican idea of what freedom is and what voting rights are, the more you realize that they just want to restrict it so that they can win. Dude, if you gotta cheat to win, you're not good. You're just not. Like, what? Fucking ridiculous, dude. How about this? Try this on for size. Republicans, try this. Appeal to voters. Could work out. I don't know. Do you?
I know this is a very insulting question to hear, but logically, make it make sense. I would put electing the leader of the free world at a higher priority than getting a government ID. This would mean that voting should be taken more seriously than getting an ID. And if someone can't get an ID, then I would argue they're not ready to vote in an election. Period.
So you would like to restrict people's freedom to vote based on whether or not you decide that they take that ability to vote seriously or not? This is the conservative argument. Wow. Not sending your best, are you? Do we have any other chud that wants to like fucking just like make a good argument or no? Like one person that considers themselves a fucking Republican or a conservative. Do you have one good argument to restrict people's access to voting? One of them? I can't think of one. Would love to find a good reason.
I've had an ID since I was 15, and not having one would have made my life significantly.
How did you get to the place when you were 15? I wonder how you got an ID at 15. I'm sure there was literally nobody influencing that whatsoever. You got no help from anybody, and you paid for it yourself with your 15-year-old dollary dues. Did you go to driving school by yourself? Like, paid your whole way? Like, come on. Let's make them free. Let's make them free.
More complicated to navigate. If there's a will, there's a way, and we should be encouraging people to hold themselves responsible.
She walked for 6 hours in the nearest DMV. Duh. True.
Instead of making excuses for them. Because it's these excuses that are used to justify unnecessary legislation. And this is why I wanted to challenge some of the most common excuses surrounding this topic.
Challenge them? You didn't challenge anything. You just said that poor people don't deserve to vote as much. Like what?
On camera, so you can understand that we're talking about a very small minority of people.
We're not. We're talking about 125 million people. 125 million people. Hey, XX Reformed. 125 million adult people in America. Do you know what? That's like half the adults. It's like half of them. In fact, it's over half. It's 52%.
Okay, someone that isn't capable of researching how to obtain an ID, someone that isn't capable of figuring out how to get there to get the ID, and someone that doesn't have the money to obtain an ID. That's a very small minority of people. So now we're able to see that the amount of effort being used to condemn voter IDs is actually...
So if you want voter ID, and you agree that there is a population of people that just utterly cannot get one, make it free and send them out. Easy. I've fixed the problem. You can have voter ID. Voter IDs are free. Done. They're universal. And also they work as your driver's license because they are IDs, and you should not have to pay for IDs. There's lots of countries that have free IDs and that send them in the mail. Nigeria is one of these countries that is just now implementing IDs to the population over the last few years, and they have also tied bank accounts to these, so you can also use them one card as pretty much everything you need. It's pretty dope, and they're free. They're free. She didn't address how voting obstacles disproportionately affect the mentally ill, did she? Wonder why. No, of course not, because she's a dum-dum. She is a dum-dum.
Disproportionate to how many citizens actually fall into that category. So the question is, why? If you think back to what I said earlier in this conversation, based on what happened last fall, most people could conclude that not requiring IDs would be an easy way to, But hold up, there's still the matter of Jim Crow 2.0.
An easy way to what?
After all, SB 7 is a racist bill, right? Well, luckily for you, I have the bill right here, and I actually read through all of it, and I can't find a single thing that I could link this to racism.
Oh, you can't find it? Well, then it doesn't exist.
But perhaps I missed something, so let's see what TexasDemocrats.org has to say about the bill. Sure. Voter rights advocates outraged as racist to ableist voter suppression bill advances through Texas Senate. SB 7 has been widely condemned as the latest in Texas Republicans' voter suppression efforts. The bill includes extremist provisions that would make it harder to vote by mail.
So, this is what the ableist part is, probably. Voting by mail is very important for people with mobility issues or any kind of situation where they may need constant medical care, or maybe don't like large crowds because of a mental illness, or maybe are sick and don't want to spread it to people. It's pretty easy to understand why mail voting is a good thing and should be just we should only do mail voting, pretty much. I'm fine if you do, I guess not only, but I mean, we should really prioritize mail-in voting. It's a really effective way to do it. It's very easy. You can verify them pretty quickly, and nobody can really cheat by mail. Like, it's not really a thing. The only thing that's bad with voting by mail is the possibility of ballots being lost in transit. But as somebody who has worked for the USPS, the United States Postal Service, I gotta say, it's pretty fucking foolproof. It's pretty easy not to fuck up the mail. You pick it up and you put it in a box and you take it. When you take it back, somebody else entirely goes through it. It's not the carrier's job to sort that shit. You take it back, and somebody, depending on the size of your office and where you are. If you're in a big hub, it's a little bit different. If you're in a small rural carrier thing, it's usually somebody in the office itself. Like, maybe you make a couple stops and you come back, even depending on the size of your route. Maybe you just do all one go. A lot of parcels went up over the course of COVID. I'm sure you're going to learn today. You said that's me, then you understand. The parcels went fucking crazy, especially Amazon stuff. During COVID, because nobody could go to the store, so you just delivered tons of shit. Your car's filled up. Really, really bad. They're pretty good at what they do at the USPS. Yeah, my mom is a carrier. It's pretty easy. And there's provisions in place. Like people do give a shit about their mail. And frankly, the way that we track mail is incredibly sophisticated. I don't really know. Like I feel like if you say out loud that voting by mail is very risky, you don't understand how the fucking mail works, dude. At all. They're pretty good at what they do. Dude, even the shitty mail carriers are good at what they do as far as, like, this stuff is concerned. All you gotta do is pick up. In fact, I think picking up mail out of mailboxes and putting it in your thing is part of the easiest thing during the carrier position job. Like, just keeping it and throwing it away. It's much harder to sort stuff because most of your energy is devoted to making sure the correct things go to the correct houses and remembering how many parcels each person has and everything like that. It is a kind of a complicated job at times. It's kind of simple at times. It just depends on what's going on. But losing ballots, I mean, they're pretty obviously ballots. We took it very seriously when we were putting them out. I was part of that, actually. I worked until the summertime, and I quit because my back was fucked, and I didn't need the job anymore. They were asking me to do too much because COVID hit, and it was a one-day job. But picking up was the easiest part, yeah. Tater Man Mill with 1,000 biddies. Working people don't have time for this shit. I literally work 7 days a week. I'm not rare in that. Just turning in my ballot in Idaho took some serious scheduling for me because they make it almost impossible for 9 to 5 workers to vote. 100% true, Tater Man Mill. And that's 1,000 biddy dono, which makes you the leader in the you are now at 1,300 total biddies, which means you get to pick one of these badges. We got the hype and we got the creamed cobby badges. So you get to pick one. We're almost out. So thank you for that. Next person to beat Tater Man Mill's total gets to pick the last cobby. My job is to send narcotics through the mail. If I can trust them with my morphine, you can trust them with your vote. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Reduce early voting options and require voters with disabilities to show a doctor's note before receiving a mail-in ballot. Moves that would add, oh God, okay, we're gonna skip all that. All right, this would basically put black and brown voters were, okay, whatever. Okay, so.
Wait, I thought you said you couldn't find what it did, and then when you were brought evidence that you were brought like the Coomer, hell yeah, give me the cream, you got it. I will give you the Coom cream. Right here, it'll just sit right off underneath my chin where the Coom cream goes. You know what I mean? So lost. Don't be lost, dude.
So they're saying that this bill would reduce early voting options.
Yes.
Not sure how that's racist.
You don't know. Wait. Well, we just talked about it. Anyway, we just talked about how all of that it really disproportionately affects black communities. Specifically rural black communities.
But all right. Luckily, most people should know the voting dates months in advance to be able to ask their boss for time off.
If everybody's asking for time off, they can't get time off. What are you fucking talking about? That's the problem with voting day. It's really hard to get time off. I used to work I missed an election because I had to work at fucking McDonald's and go to school. Like, what? Shit's fucking ridiculous, bro.
Or make proper arrangements for that to happen. Sorry, but there is no excuse for not having the time to go vote.
There literally is excuses for not having the time to go vote, you dumb bitch. What are you talking about? I have 3 kids and must work every hour possible to ensure they have food. What are you going to go back to? Like, oh, well, you shouldn't have had sex then, huh? Should have thought about voting before you had some sex. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Make voting day a national holiday. I'll take you one step further. Make voting week a national holiday. Boom. Voting week. So fucking dumb, dude.
If voting is important to you, you'll make the time and you'll figure it out. Next up, requiring voters with disabilities.
Do you think she's ever been punched in the face by anybody? Like real hard? I feel like when you emote with your face like this, you get punched in the face a lot. You doubt it? I kind of doubt it too because she still does it. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like when you go like, yeah, and I think that you're a fucking poor. Like when you emote like that and you're fucking like smug, you better stay indoors, dog. You're gonna get knocked the fuck out, especially if you're a dude. But I guess like she's a lady, so maybe it happens less. But like you cannot fucking act this way. Where I'm from, I don't know, dude.
abilities to show a doctor's note to receive a mail-in ballot. Yeah, absolutely. As we just discussed, you should know months in advance about the voting dates, and if you forgot, that's unfortunate. Also, if you're on disability, you have to already go to the doctor, so getting a note shouldn't be a big deal.
What? If you're on disability, you have to go to the doctor. It shouldn't be a big deal. What? You can't just visit a doctor and get a note for free. What? What the fuck? This guy kind of falling. I mean, I'm not in charge of that, so you just do what you want to do. No idea. It's so fucking... She's so privileged, dog. It's so bad.
The reality is, mail-in voting was at an all-time high, and I'm sure you all remembered what problems
I agree. Polls open 12 hours a day for that.
was followed as a result.
Thousands of mail-in ballots thrown out. None of this happened. Didn't they go over all this stuff and like, nah, this didn't affect anything? Like what? You don't go to work every day, my livestock... You work in agriculture. If I don't go to work every day, my livestock dies. How could she just disregard the lives of people that keep this godforsaken country running? Yeah, she's a fucking dumbass, dude. That shit's hard. My grandparents were farmers. My family has a history of farming. And, like, yeah, that shit's fucking hard, dude. The big voting ballot toss was from a Trump supporter. Surprise. This one, right? This one? The postal worker? In Tampa? Yeah. I think this was, yeah.
Oh, sorry, was I not? Mail-in voting, to put it bluntly, would make it easier for someone to cheat if they wanted to do that.
How? How does it make it easier for someone to cheat? And what does cheating involve? How does it make someone easier? Like, I don't understand. What's the easy part about cheating? I want to vote for Bernie Sanders. And then I send it in the mail. Ah, fuck, cheated. What? What's the cheating part? There's literally no evidence of that. Yeah, we don't have evidence of voter fraud from mail-in ballots specifically.
This isn't me suggesting anything, YouTube moderators. I'm just saying this cannot logically be ruled out as a possibility.
As a possibility? What the fuck are you talking about? That's like me saying it's a possibility you're a pedophile. And for you not to get mad about it. It's a possibility Gothix is a pedophile. Yes, it is. It is a possibility. I have no evidence to support that. There's no reason for me to say that. It's just a vibe, right? It's just logically speaking, you can't deny that you could be Gothix sexually attracted to children. I'm not suggesting anything, YouTube moderators. I am merely saying that I can't rule out that she thinks kids are sexy. I just can't. Can't do it. You see how fucking dumb that is? Why would I do that? Why in the world? Curious how she's not denying it. That's true. Not denying it immediately. That's also true. And
no sensible critical thinker can deny that.
No sensible critical thinker can deny that it's possible that someone cheats at voting during a mail-in ballot. Nobody says it's impossible. You know what they are saying? No data supports that people are doing that en masse. None whatsoever. It's a federal crime. Like, most people are like, it's not worth it to get an extra vote for Donald Trump to fucking go to jail. Like, what? Why don't we just, like, if they do the bad thing, it's pretty easy to see they did the bad thing. Oh, there's a duplicate ballot here. Oh, another one. Why is that? Add more mic salt? I think we need it. You're probably right. Is there actually salt in here? Fuck is in here, dude? There's something in here. Is there like a clump? Is there like clumpy ass salt in my shaker? Oh, the cork is just falling to pieces. Oh god. Is this old salt, chat? I'm gonna take my keys and get this cork out of here. Let's see what the corn cork has to say. Oh, yeah. Oh, there's actual salt in there, chat. There's salt in that. I didn't put this here. It was sent like this. All this salt is going away, though. That's still going, isn't it? Okay. All right. Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's still going. Still, wow, it's still, that's still totally full. That's still, wow, that is, that just keeps going, doesn't it? Okay. Now we're good. Got a little on the desk here. Scoop that right out. Yeah, it's going in Sargon, dude. What are you talking about? Sargon was just filled up with salt. Like normal. I love that my trash can is named Sargon. That could be Coke and you're wasting it. Well, I'll just snort it out of the trash can then. She's making me so fucking angry. Might have to call it a night. Her entire video. Well, it's almost done, so you don't have to call it a night. Next video is even better. Is Tacticorn new? Tacticorn is new. Yep. Good stuff. Good stuff.
And for anyone that finds that possibility to be a good thing, I want you to really consider if trusting someone who cheats, lies, and has no regard for the Constitution would be someone that you would put your trust in.
What are you talking about? Now she's framing people that vote by mail as people that don't fucking, they just can't be trusted and don't like the Constitution. What are you talking about? What? How is that a fucking, like, I thought we were being objective, bro. I'm gonna try very hard to be objective. Like, what do you mean? You just said people that vote by mail with this fucking face. Look at this dumb fucking face, dude. I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to do it to him.
Again, not accusing anyone of anything, but
except you literally just did.
Just something to think about. Because those types of folks
Just
don't have any allegiance to their
advocate.
country, so I doubt they'd have allegiance to you. Just look at Cuba right now.
What? Look at Cuba? What? Indie odd jobs, thanks for following. What do you mean, what? Look at Cuba right now, just saying words, just for no reason.
No, I didn't forget about SB 202. I read through that as well, and again, can't find anything moderately close to racist. I've seen some articles that suggest the bill would target black and disabled folks by making it a misdemeanor for people to hand out money or gifts, you know, coercion, including but not limited to
Bottled water and food for people in line.
Food or drink to anyone standing in line to vote, because
how is that coercion? I'll give you a bottle of water if you vote for Donald Trump. If I'm thirsty, I'll be like, oh yeah, totally. And I'll take that. I'm voting for whoever the fuck. It's a, what? Water, bro. It's water. Food? We should make it comfortable for people to vote. Yes, these are not people being coerced with water and sandwiches, bruh. Why is she so fucking stupid? What a... Gothix, if I gave you a bottle of water, are you gonna change your fucking politics, bro? No? Then why do you think fucking anybody else will? Like, what? What kind of dumbass are you? Making voting just comfortable to be in. And this is like off the heels of a very hot summer. Off the heels of people being like, dude, sometimes it sucks to vote. And just being like, yeah, I'm thirsty. I want shade. I'm hungry. Like, especially if you fucking live somewhere in the South where it's still kind of warm in November. It could be a hot day. In the sunshine. Chilling out there. Off the heels of COVID. You're right. Like, what? How's that coercion? I'm not going to fucking vote for you because you gave me a bottle of water, dude. What? I'm just thirsty. I will give, if there's a Trump supporter standing in line. It's like this old lady, and she's wearing a MAGA hat. She's like, I'm so hot and I need water. I'll probably give her a bottle of water, bro. I'm nice like that. I don't like if I have a bottle of water, I'm giving out bottles of water. I don't care who you're voting for. You need water to live. That's okay. I have compassion for people. It's not a big deal. I will prioritize the people with not MAGA hats though, because they voted for shit like this. Parker Nell Daughter, thanks for following.
Lines for voting are drastically long, and this would put some voters at a disadvantage. Okay, well, I don't know if Democratic politicians realize this, but there's this thing. It's really, really great technology. It's called a water bottle, right? They come in all various shapes and sizes, and some are insulated.
So we were literally just talking about how people can't afford stuff, and now she's saying go get a fucking nice water bottle. I'm done with this bitch. I'm done. She's just stupid. She's the dumbest. She's the fucking dumbest, dude. Literally just the most abysmal personality. What if you already drank the water, though? Anyway, Gothix is a fucking dumbass and doesn't have a good argument for anything. Debate me, bro.